What is going on, guys? This is Justin with Go Crazy Card Collecting. I am going to talk to you about possibly my favorite Cardinals team of all time. I know I've been alive. I've been alive since 1983, and I know I've gotten to see some really good Cardinal teams. But being in this hobby and doing what I love with baseball cards, I've really fallen in love with the 1967 Cardinals. It was their first year in what was Busch Stadium 2. And the stadium that I grew up in, they now have a new stadium, which was built and it was open in 2006. And so this 1967 was the first year that they were in that kind of circle cookie cutter stadium that a lot of us knew and grew up with. But it ended up being a really, really fantastic year for the Cardinals. They did some amazing things, and I just wanted to show you their cards and talk about some of the players and some of the things that they accomplished and maybe give you some stories along the way. I hope that I can. It's a really fun year, and it's a really fun time if you're a Cardinals fan. They did end up winning 111 games, which was fantastic. Went to the World Series, won the World Series. I've gotten to meet a player from that team who ended up being kind of a big deal for that team. But there were so many Cardinals legends involved in that year, and I'll get started and we'll start talking about them. The first thing, I do want to say the GM, if you didn't know at the time, in his 1 year stint, the GM was none other than Stan Musial. So Stan the man. It was his 1 year as general manager, and his manager was his buddy Red Schoendienst. If you don't know who Red Schoendienst was, he played for the Cardinals in this is his 1952, and he played for them in the 40s and 50s, played alongside Stan, and so he is a Hall of Famer and a Cardinals legend. And he was the manager of that 67 team that went on to do such great things. They were really awesome, really amazing. We're going to go kind of around the horn to start off. The first baseman was Orlando Cepeda. He is a Hall of Famer, played for the Giants for a bunch of years. Great card. By the way, these are all from 68 because the 68 year was kind of in celebration to those 67 Cardinals. So this is Cepeda. He won the National League MVP that year. Fantastic card. He just had such a good year. Had hit 325 with 25 home runs, 111 RBIs. Great year. Javier was the second baseman. Maxville was our shortstop. And if you are a Cardinals fan or were in the 90s, you would know 90s, 2000s, you would know this guy, Mike Shannon. Or if you're a Cardinals fan ever, he was around the Cardinals for a long, long time as an announcer. And so Mike Shannon played third base that year. That was something that was kind of changed up, and they moved him to third. Ended up really working out. Your outfielders, let's see if I can find these. Here we go. Your outfielders were Curt Flood. You guys know him. He had a lot to do with free agency. Lou Brock. You know I'm working on his run. That's a great Lou Brock card. Big O smile. Swinging the bat. And then in a short stint at the end of his career, Roger Maris played for the Cardinals. He didn't have a stellar year in 67, but he was he was solid in the World Series. But if you think about it, so far, I've shown 2 Hall of Famers, 3 Hall of Famers if you count Red as the manager. So pretty awesome. You keep moving on. The catcher, Tim McCarver, longtime announcer for the Cardinals. Did tons of World Series with Joe Buck. Great announcer. I grew up listening to Tim McCarver. Then you had your pitching rotation. I've got a few of them down here. See if I can. And I got a story with one of them. So you've got Hall of Famer Steve Carlton. He's in his third year, I think. Maybe fourth year. His rookie's in 65. Let's see. I would say 66, 67. 67 was his first full good year. 14 wins for old Steve Carlton. Of course, you had Bob Gibson. This was my mom's. So pretty fantastic there. She opened that in 68. A lot of you have seen me talk about those. He was the man, but he missed like 50 games. He got hit, and I was told this story from a guy in the pitching rotation with him. He got hit in the shin on a line drive from none other than Roberto Clemente. Broke his shin, and he missed 50 games, and that was it. Came back in. The guy was unbelievable. Tank. Nelson Briles, who really stepped up during that time. A lot of people hail him as the hero, but he did win 14 games, 67. But the guy I talked to said he was already in the rotation. Said he stepped up and filled in, but he was already in the rotation when Gibson went down. And the guy that I talked to was Dick Hughes. I got to have lunch with him. Some of you know that story. I've got a video about it. I've got all three of his cards here. I'll tell you why he only had three. There's his rookie card. I asked, and he signed all of these for me. I also have a couple tickets from that year. September 19th. The reason I bought this is because Dick Hughes pitched this game, won 1-0 against Hall of Famer Jim Bunning. I had Mr. Hughes sign it for me. Dick Hughes, Cardinals, winning pitcher, 1-0, complete game shutout. Had like 7 strikeouts, pretty awesome game. And then I have another one. This is another ticket from Dick Hughes. Against the Giants and Gaylord Perry. He beat him 2-0 in a complete game shutout. And he actually he had 4 RBIs in his entire career, and he had one during this game. So 2-0. He had an RBI and a complete game shutout. Fantastic. I do not have this one signed. I plan to send it to him and ask him if he would do that. And I'm sure he will. He's a fantastic man. And so that kind of rounds out the starters. And I do have a couple of relief pitchers. This Joe Horner had the most saves, was probably the best relief pitcher on the team. And then there's another one, which is kind of has a cool story. Ron Willis. There was a teacher that I worked with at my previous school. Her maiden name was Willis, and she said, "Do you have Ron Willis in the set?" When I was, building the '68 set, and I said, "I sure do." She said, "Well, that's, I think it's her cousin, but he was quite a bit older than her. It was her first cousin. Her dad and him were best friends." And Tim McCarver was a pallbearer at his funeral. He passed away pretty young. I can't exactly remember why. It had to do with his brain, I think. But anyway, Ron Willis was, and I talked to Mr. Hughes about Ron, and he kind of got teary-eyed and talked about him a little bit and said that they were roommates on the road. And so that's kind of wild. And he didn't know that Ron was sick until he died, and I don't think any of them really did, but a pretty fantastic story. He was a really good reliever for the Cardinals, especially in that 67 year. And so let me tell you about how well-rounded this Cardinals team was. There were several Hall of Famers on the team. A guy in Roger Maris, my mind went blank. A guy in Roger Maris that you could argue should be in the Hall of Fame, just for the few years that he had that kind of changed the landscape of baseball for a little bit with his home run race with Mickey Mantle. And so you could argue him as well. I have a different outlook on the Hall of Fame than a lot of you do, so I actually think that he should be in. But the team was so well rounded that they had four all-star players, and it was four from every kind of position on the team. And so you had an infielder, Cepeda, who was your MVP, was an all-star. These are the all-star cards from 68. Love these cards. You had Tim McCarver, who was a catcher, was an all-star. Lou Brock, an outfielder. So you have an infielder, the catcher, and an outfielder. And then you had a pitcher in Bob Gibson. How fantastic is that? Talk about well-rounded. So they win 111 games. They were actually predicted to finish last in the National League, and or at least way down at the bottom. They weren't expected to be very good. Shane Deans had changed some things up. Musial had changed some things up. By the way, as Hughes went on, Hughes got 16 wins that year, and he had they call him a rookie sensation. Had 16 wins and was Rookie of the Year runner-up to Tom Seaver. And so fantastic year, but he got called into the office, said Stan Musial called him in there several times to give him a raise. So that's the kind of man Stan Musial was. He knew that that Dick Hughes was working real hard and that he was winning games, and so he called him into his office several times and gave him a raise. Pretty awesome. So anyway, they get into the World Series, and Bob Gibson is healthy, and this is his time to shine. It's fantastic. They go 7 full games. Gibson just pitches gems every time that he's out, wins the 7th game. They are facing the Impossible Dream, which was the Red Sox team from 67, a wonderful, wonderful team led by this guy. This was also my mom's, this 7-5, who won the Triple Crown that year and the American League MVP, Carl Yastrzemski. Wonderful. And then there was a little World Series subset in 68 talking about it. Says this is from game 1, which the Cardinals won this game 2-1, and Gibson was the pitcher of this game. It says Brock Sox 4 hits in opener, so Lou Brock had a really good game. Game 2, Yaz smashes 2 homers. Your starting pitcher for St. Louis was Dick Hughes. He had a bad World Series, had a wonderful season, bad World Series, gave up a couple home runs to Yaz, I think, in the World Series. So he lost game 2. Bryles wins game 3. Cardinals are up 2-1. Gibson comes in and they blank the Sox. Cards are up 3-1. Then the Red Sox win the next 2 games. Game 5, which I was wondering if that was the Hughes game. It was not. Game 6, I believe, is Dick Hughes pitched. Yep, Hughes pitches this game, gets the loss in this game. He actually goes 0 for 1, so he didn't claim the loss in the other one, I think. But anyway, he pitches in that game. And then game 7, that's Gibson right there. Pitches a complete gem. And he gave up 1 hit in that game, in game 7 of the World Series, to win 7-2. No, I take that back. He had 1 hit. Anyway, He had one hit. That didn't make, I was like, they gave up 2 runs. I'm sure he gave up more hits than that. And then this one is just kind of the celebration of the Cardinals, has kind of all the stats from the World Series. So that's the subset. That's one of the many reasons that 68 set is so special to me, is because of the 67 Cardinals team. I love them. Cepeda gave them the nickname Albertos, and so it was just a wonderful thing. And I have a few ties to that team, personal ties, which is kind of cool. And so, guys, I appreciate you. I thank you. My last video was fantastic. So many commented, so many watched it. I appreciate that. Keep coming back. And I mean, let's go crazy card collecting, right? So I appreciate you, and thanks a lot. Stay blessed.